Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and hello everybody. Welcome to the discussion on Dear Mr. Kilmer, judging the book by its cover. Okay, let us analyze the cover of the novel Dear Mr. Kilmer before we start reading the novel. Okay, first of all, let us study the word dear. The word dear is an opening remark of a letter. And then secondly, Mr. Kilmer. Mr. Kilmer is the character in the novel. If we combine Dear Mr. Kilmer, it shows a letter writing activity which involves him, which will later be part of the plot. Okay, next let us study the guy in the picture, the man in the picture. Okay, the man in the picture is none other than Mr. Kilmer himself. Okay, let us study the uniform. The uniform shows that he is an army and he is at the war zone. You can see at the background there. And finally, let us study the object that he is holding. It is actually a letter, but who is the writer and who is the recipient and what is the content of the letter, we will find out later. Okay? Next, we will study the characters and also characteristics of the first character is Sergeant Joyce Kilmer. Who is Sergeant Joyce Kilmer? He is a volunteer army, and at the same time he works for the New York Times. He writes the poem The Tree. He becomes Richard's distant friend and he understands Richard's passion. He encourages Richard through letters, and finally he was killed in the war. Next we have the main character, Richard Knight. Okay, Richard Knight, also Richie. He is the main character of the novel. He loves nature and poetry. He admires Mr. Kilmer. Mr. Kilmer is his idol. Okay, he is firm and has integrity in class. He writes letters, many letters to Mr. Kilmer. And he was labeled Sissy because of his passion on poetry. He was also labeled traitor for being on Hana's side. And he is a close friend and protector of Hana Sharma, a victim of racism. Okay, next we have Hana Sharma. Hana Sharma is a daughter of a German family, but she was born in the US. She is often bullied. For example, her book was written Dirty Hand all over. Her tavern was vandalized. She gets support and protection from Richard. She is clever. She used to win an essay contest. She is patient and tolerant. She rejects the title of Lady Liberty she earns from the contest, from the essay contest. She also supports Richard's hobby in poetry by suggesting and giving ideas for the content. Okay, next we have Mrs. Hanson. Okay, Mrs. Hanson is Richard's English teacher. She introduces the class and also Richard to Mr. Kilmer's poem entitled The Tree. She also emphasizes that poets are not sissies. She supports Richard's hobby and she also supports Hana. Okay, the next is Pa. Pa is Richard's father. Pa is very cool and calm and at the same time very secretive. He doesn't talk much actually. He single-handedly manages the family consisting of Richard, Angie, and Gus after his wife died. He does not show support to Richard's hobby at first. He does not like the idea of Gus joining the army, but at the end of the novel, he shows support to Richard. Okay, next we have Gus. Gus is Richard's brother. He has the opposite characteristic of Richard's because he is very rough and tries to be manly. He has his own ideas of manliness, that is by joining army and sports. He is quite frustrated with Richard's characteristics, and he finally joins army without his father's consent. Okay, next we have Abner Lewis. Abner Lewis is the bad guy in the novel actually. He is Richard's classmate and he is a troublemaker together with a few of his friends. He considers a poem as sissy stuff. He is totally against Richard's relationship with Hana and he had a physical fight with Richard. The Sharmas. The Sharmas are Hana's parents. Mr. Sharma, the father, is quite optimistic and very positive. Mrs. Sharma, Hana's mother, is pessimistic or negative. But both are very hospitable towards Richard. Both support Richard's poetry, and both encourage Richard to send poems to newspaper. And we also have other minor characters. For example, Angie, Richard's sister, Harry Carver, Blanche Freehold, Peggy Mason, Herbie Wichinski, and Mildred Wright. They are Richard's classmates. We also have Otto, Hannah's brother in war. We also have Roland, past brother who died in war. Mr. Higby, the history teacher. And now we discuss plot. Okay, for plot, let us study the plot. Dear Mr. Kilmer is basically a story revolves around Richard Knight, a boy who has to face two challenges in his life. What are the two challenges? Firstly, to face the family's and community's negative perception towards his passion in writing poem, just like his idol Mr. Joyce Kilmer. And secondly, to be firm in his stand that it is unfair to mistreat a German girl, Hana, just because she is German. In short, in Richard Knight's life, he has two things to focus on. Firstly, poem. Secondly, Hana. Okay, that's all for this video. And next, let us study the chapters in the following video. That's all. Thank you. Bye.